Yeah, I wasn't surprised that people in kind of the center-left mass media that's dominant in the USA stuck by Jussie, even you could say after his story collapsed. And I think that's because there's a bit of a narrative here. One of the questions I often get asked is, why do people fake hate crimes? Which is itself a crime, as well as very socially dysfunctional. And there are two answers. The first is more mundane, and it would be to collect insurance money, for example, to receive some kind of recompense. But what we see more often is that we have begun to reward victimhood in this country. Really, the only thing that's responsible for the continuation of pro-minority affirmative action 52 years in, minority set-asides. I could buy a radio station for about half price, I've been told. The budgets for the giant activist groups, Southern Poverty Law Center has a well-invested endowment of $470 million. What's responsible for all of this is the idea that there's continued almost ethnic warfare in the USA. And there is a body of entities, whether you're talking about the older civil rights groups like Rainbow Coalition, Al Sharpton's National Action Network, the new lions on the scene like the literally hundreds of Black Lives Matter, Occupy and post-Occupy chapters, large fringe groups like the Nation of Islam. There's a substantial block of people that have an interest in presenting this as continuing. So when these hate hoax incidents happens, one of the things you see is that people are very strongly supported. They're not counseled and told to sort of keep quiet for reasons of dignity, but go to the police. Instead, for example, you see parades held through the center of college campuses. And I think that that is an incentive for a certain kind of person to try to engage in this behavior. So because of the prevalence of that narrative, what you see very often is that even when stories seem ridiculous, people stick by them. About 70% of the people shot by police in the United States are not black. The groups most likely to be shot by the police, in fact, are poor whites and recent Latino immigrants. The media essentially ignores this. I did a very simple Google Analytics test, just look through Google Advanced first 50 pages fairly recently, and found that about 80% of mass media coverage of police shootings involves the 20% with a black victim. You see something similar with interracial crime. Interracial crime is extremely rare. It's about 20%. Interracial violent crimes make up less than 20% of crimes. And when it does occur, it's again, there are more whites, they have more money, about 70% minority on white, not the reverse. The media focuses on it constantly, and they focus almost entirely on what are called Zimmerman situations, white or quote unquote white people attacking black people. So there are many of these biases, and I was not surprised to see evidence of one in this case. The way my work has been received on the campus and in the community I live in actually is interesting in that it's been overwhelmingly positive. I teach at Kentucky State University, which is one of the older historically black institutions. Fairly elite black college. It's what's known as an 1866 black college. And I've found while working there that the black colleges are much, much less politically correct than what we call PWIs, primarily white institutions. So, I mean, I've had some teasing from friends on the faculty, questions like, are you going to start voting Republican now? Or do you think this excuses some of the foolish things Trump's done? And you can have a conversation. But I've seen no anger, no backlash, no picketing, protesting, anything like that. The most common reaction of students was, quote unquote, we knew that brother was lying from the start. I also will say, keeping this quick, that the social justice population is a very small percentage of the American population. I've done some anonymous surveying, not to overhype this, just basic intro surveys showing students perhaps what a survey looks like. But I've asked a good number of people in completely anonymous settings, and I'm a good survey researcher, whether they actually believe some of the social justice talking points. Do you believe that males can become females in any meaningful sense? I'm not going to judge that myself right now, but I asked the question. Do you believe that your upper middle class black buddies, your friends on the team, are wildly oppressed? The general percentage of individuals that say yes to these questions is 1% to 3%. Nobody actually believes this. The emperor has no clothes. And if you're in a successful minority setting, you can often just say that in public. The media in the United States overwhelmingly is dominated by one variety of person. And by that I mean mostly Caucasian, although I don't think race matters much here, upper middle class to upper class, coastal, big city. There are a very limited number of major television networks in Kentucky, for example. So I think that that is an environment that's very ripe for the transmission of bias. And that is in fact what you see.